Hello and welcome to the first episode of ByteSnap Design's new podcast, Embedded Tech. I'm Nicola Cope from the marketing team at ByteSnap, and this week I'm sitting down with Director Dunstan Power to discuss a significant industry development. In January, u-blox announced their exit from the cellular market. This decision will impact thousands of IoT products currently relying on modules. Dunstan, thanks for joining us today to help us unpack what this means for the industry and affected businesses. So let's kick off with some questions. Right, we're going to start with strategic impact. The u-blox announcement affects thousands of IoT developments globally. What immediate actions should companies with a u-blox cellular module in their design be taking?
So last time buys, that's probably the most obvious thing. It takes a long time to do a redesign, put things through compliance testing, get software changed. That's not a quick process. So now some customers, if they're like industrial customers with low, this might not be that big a problem. If you're only selling 100 of something a year, could be you can just do a last time buy and buy 5 years worth of stock and just not a big problem. The main impact is going to be on people doing high volume products where even if they do from a cash flow point of view, if they do a big last time buy, that's quite a cash flow hit. And if their bill of if that's a significant part of their bill of materials, that could be, quite an expensive thing for them to do versus say somebody with a big complex product where it's a small part of the bill of materials and, they're low volume. So yes, so I say initial thing is, find out for the particular part what the obsolescence plan is, exactly when last time buys are, and get your house in order in terms of that's the first thing.
And then beyond this, you might look at maybe finding replacement modules. But what broader supply chain and design strategy changes should companies consider in light of this market exit?
So, well, I think the other things are that mobile telephony is moving on all the time. There's new standards. We've gone from 2G to 3G to 4G to 5G. There's discussions at the moment about 6G. So it could be it's an opportunity for you to upgrade a product to take advantage of a new wave band or to. So the next thing to do is to like look at your product. Where is that? Where's the lifetime? Where in the lifetime of the product are you? So it might be a brand new product. You haven't even gone to market with it yet, and you're having this big sigh. You're going to have to go through and do it, design something new in. But it might be your product's actually pretty mature, and you were thinking of doing a product fresh on it anyway. So you could see this as an opportunity rather than just jumping in and doing a like for like module. You might say, well, actually, let's just look to see whether we actually want to stick with the channels that we were using, or whether and the tech, the particular telephony technology we were using, or whether actually let's use this as an opportunity to upgrade the telephony side of the product so that we'll actually take advantage of something that's maybe lower power or higher data rate or got international, you can do more international markets perhaps. So I'd say before you just jump in and just do a like for like replacement, it's worth just reflecting on whether you might want to take advantage and put something that actually does more for you, takes advantage of new standards, basically. And then, and then the next thing is, with tariff wars going on and America sort of being sort of fairly belligerent in terms of what they're willing to sell to China and what they're allowing into their market. There are issues with some chipsets that are from US companies, chipsets from Chinese companies that are cheaper generally, but you might not be able to sell that product in the US. That may not be an issue.
Okay, let's move on to technical implementation. What are the most challenging technical aspects of migrating from u-blox cellular modules to alternative solutions?
So the two aspects is hardware and software. So on the hardware side, um, you need to find a modem which does what you need it to do. So in terms of power, data rate, and fits in the same size. And that can be a problem. The u-blox modems are quite small. So typically, that's your first challenge, is finding something that physically fits. If you've got a small product, that could be a major headache. Whereas if you've got a large product, it's obviously not. So that's the first thing. Once you've done that, the other power supply side as well, you'll want something that, again, if you're battery powered, in particular, you'll have to look at your battery lifetimes. And then again, on the hardware side, you'll have to go through compliance testing, which is a pain. So the modules themselves have always like certifications, but you'd still have to do some level of compliance testing to check for sort of spurious emissions from the module, out of band, and yeah, depending on what country it's in, will dictate what you need to do. On the other side of it, of course, is the software side. Again, this is quite a large headache, because you'll have particular drivers drive that modem. You're going to have to swap those out for whatever modem you choose. And modems can be quite pernickety in terms of how they do handover between stations, how they deal with um yeah, it's not always plain sailing using them. I guess that's what I'm saying, that they you can get sort of issues with them. As I said, it's particular things like base station handover. So if it's a mobile application that should just work, but sometimes doesn't. Um, and yeah, so unfortunately, there is testing to be done just with the product. And whilst any vendor's going to tell you that their solution is absolutely fine and is in hundreds of thousands, millions of products, the reality is that, over years at ByteSnap, we've seen lots of issues with modems, and having to do firmware. Some companies in particular have done a lot of firmware updates for modems because of bugs. So I'd be slightly wary of going for the absolute latest thing with very new software on it. If you've got a mature product that's in the market, that's selling well, and you might be better off going for something that's more sort of mature as a replacement. Obviously, you want to avoid the what you block, the thing being sold, but um, yeah, you want a company that's going to just shut the business down, but then u-blox that caught them by surprise because they're like a really well established um business, been around a long time, Swiss based, people. Yeah, so it's a big shock, but I think the reality is that the sort of Chinese module manufacturers have really carved out and really put an enormous amount of cost pressure on their market, and that's just causing the margins for some of these companies just aren't there, and they're just getting out.
Okay, so to drill down on that, when companies start looking for replacement modules, what technical and business criteria should they prioritize?
So yeah, it's making sure you're forward looking with new standards, international standards. You're not going to get caught out by tariffs, by if you're selling in the US in particular, but you know, you need to be aware geographically that your modem is going to work with the standards in whatever country you're selling to, but also that you're allowed to sell it, there are any restrictions. So and that's in particular if you're using a Chinese modem or modem using, or well, regardless of made, if it's using a Chinese chipset, you need to check if there are likely to be restrictions in place for whatever countries you're selling into. Um, Business-wise, obviously pricing matters, but I mean, u-blox weren't the cheapest company anyway, so you should be able to find a modem is, within that price range. Okay. It's and then technically the physical size. Um, I mean, some manufacturers do modems that have got pin compatible options, so you can drop in different modules in the same pin out to different countries and with different. So that could be, if that's important to you, again, there are people who offer that. Yeah, I mean, it's been sort of because of the sort of Chinese guys really carving out a big part of the market. There aren't as many modem companies around as there used to be. Some of them have basically just gone out of business. So the people who are left are all quite large players. Um, but yeah, just check for restrictions, check for international use. And I mean, some modem manufacturers actually offer services for re-evaluating products. So if you've got a product that is pretty high, reasonable volume, you might for free be able to get some of the manufacturers to do testing for you, like to help you get compliance. Because obviously for them, if they're backing a winning product, you can already say, well, this product sells 50,000 a year. For them, it's like a small investment to help choose their modem over someone else's. So there'll be a lot of people out there wanting to get this u-blox business, and that they're going to be very helpful to try and win it.
Let's move on to risk management. You mentioned that u-blox exit came as a bit of a surprise, but with the way that the market's going, it perhaps wasn't completely unpredictable. How can companies better prepare for similar industry shifts?
It's well, just reading industry gossip, really. But it's quite difficult for, say you're a SME in based in a country a long way from where your products are coming from. On a bill of materials, you could have hundreds of parts. It's very hard to know if a particular company is thinking of exiting an area, particularly if they've been for a long time and they're very established, like u-blox were. So I'm not sure how much you can really do. I think you just have to accept that these things happen and just get on and fix the problem. These things are gonna. I mean, obviously, if you can use pin compatible devices, but then great. But you're not going to find pin compatible modems between manufacturers. What other than if you use plug-in modules, so that there are modem manufacturers who sell PCI Express connector-based modems, and those do give the opportunity a potential to switch manufacturers, but you pay a premium for those, and also from a physical size and shape, it's quite limiting. So it's not going to work on a really small product, for instance. But yeah, you can use socketed devices to protect yourself if you don't mind paying a premium. In terms of other parts on the board, this is just obsolescence, is just something that we live with. Some companies offer longevity plans on parts like NXP, and other ones. If you go with a sort of a Far Eastern company, that's with a cheap product, you're probably taking a much higher risk. But that might be risk worth taking for things that products that turn over quickly and high volume. So yeah, if you always go with the cheapest part, you are definitely putting a risk in terms of um, obsolescence. And it's not just a thing with Southeast Asia. I mean, we've seen obsolescence again for another company a few years ago, just obsoleted a whole load of light sensors and caused, problems. And so it can be country and anyone, businesses look after their own business interests, and they if they need to exit, they will exit. So.
Moving next on to cost and implementation, maybe drawing upon the light sensors or something else. Can you think of an example of when ByteSnap helped a client to navigate a major component obsolescence?
In the supply chain crisis following COVID, there were huge obsolescence challenges all over the post. And in fact, the majority of the hardware work we did in 2022 was not new product design. It was more redesign of existing products to help companies carry on selling products. So I mean, the main issues were around microcontrollers, because that massive affects all the software, because if all your software is based on a particular vendor, you're having to rewrite all the software as well as doing the hardware, whereas a lot of parts don't have any software impact. So yeah, an example, yeah, we had one customer who had they basically, we probably don't want to talk specifically about naming them because of, but yeah, we had a customer who did a like home appliance, and they had their microcontroller went obsolete. So we had to redesign it with another make of microcontroller, write all the code. And then by the time, and then get it all through compliance. We did all that, got it all working. And then short after, the supply chain crisis ended pretty abruptly at the end of 22, start of 23. And so they effectively suddenly had all the parts they needed for the original design available. But at least it meant they had a backup. They had two designs that were both compliant, and they could choose which one to use, basically.
So where were we?
But they were like doing 100,000 units a year, so they couldn't sort of just do some last time buys or find the few bits through distributors like low volume people were. They needed to get contracts in with large, and then we didn't even start the design till they secured the parts. So yeah, yeah.
So that's a high volume example.
Yeah, high volume. Yeah, yeah. Low volume is much less of a problem, because when you get these supply chain glitches, you can quite often get past them with, um, uh, just buying, maybe even through the grey market. But yeah, you can get through with stocking a bit of stuff.
Finally, let's close with industry perspective. So, looking ahead 5 to 10 years, what emerging trends do you think will most impact product longevity and obsolescence management?
Well, obviously, the talk at the moment is AI. So AI's not had much impact on hardware design to date. Um, Obviously, on a lot more impact on software, and there's various reasons for that. But what I've seen AI being mooted for hardware development is around component selection, and so I'm sure there'll be new tools to help with selection. I'm I'm a little bit skeptical. An element of, is this actually really a problem that needs solving with AI? I'm not really convinced it is, but there's obviously people are trying to play startups are trying to apply AI to everything. Um, so guess the main impacts probably, we're in a time of a lot of political turbulence, and particularly around tariffs and around location of chip fabs, around the heavy over-reliance on Taiwan in particular. And so, I expect there to be quite a lot of market movement over the next, decade in terms of where chips are made, by whom, and maybe more restrictions who can sell what to who, and so less freedom to be able to use whatever you want and sell it to whoever you want, which is sad. I think it's very negative, but it's just the sort of political reality of where we are in 2025. So um, I hope there'll be a readjustment back to freer trade in the future. Um, but yeah, it's actually going to impact component selection, and um, at the moment, I think people, yeah, it's an extra thing you have to think about with selection that you wouldn't have, say, 10 years or 5 years ago. You needed to really think that much about. Um, you just choose the best part for the job, whereas now you're having to factor into your equation a bit around the sort of politics of it all.
Thank you, Dunstan, and thank you, listeners, for tuning in to Embedded Tech. For more information on how we can help with your product redesign, visit bytesnap.com.